All right, everybody. Well, the Colorado Avalanche lose a frustrating game 3-1 to Vancouver. They did a lot right, but the things they did wrong, Vancouver seemed to capitalize on, and that's all they really needed. And a backup goalie that's not having the best of seasons beat the Colorado Avalanche. This is nothing where you're like hitting a panic button or anything like that, but it's just one of those games that you should have won and you didn't. And sometimes that's going to happen. So Kyle and I will break all this down now. All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Avalanche with a 3-1 loss to Vancouver at home, which doesn't happen a lot, but it's going to happen. And it did Wednesday night. So Kyle and I will break all that down and then some. But first things first, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciate it. Follow the show, social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow the show over on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, where we record these shows live and join in on the conversation while we are recording. All right, so 3-1 loss to Vancouver. You felt really good as an Avs fan just because your trade season went so well. You had the game against the Oilers, which you know that was a really good game, and that game you just felt watching that the Avs got up for it. They had to. You know, it's a team that can match your speed. They have all the skill in the world. They have two of the best players in the world, and you could tell the difference in tone from the Avs, how they played that game to how they played this game. Not that they played bad. They played a good game, just a different style of game. Vancouver does not play as fast as Edmonton does. And I mean, what did the Avalanche have on net? 30-something shots? 33? They had good chances. And you're going up against a backup goalie who just really shut you down. And I don't know. It's just, you know what it is? Like I said, it's just one of those games. And you got to just move on from it. And I'm sure the Avalanche already have.
Yeah, the Vancouver Canucks play a much different style than the Edmonton Oilers, where the Edmonton Oilers and the Avalanche it's two Maseratis going at it. And this one was a physical game. Like, checks were being finished way after the puck was there and gone. It got really chippy, really quick, and that's just really not the Avalanche game. And they were kind of taken out of it, and they were playing frustrated, and Vancouver was frustrated. So it was just a weird game, especially it's the tale of Zola's time. You roll into Ball Arena, and your goalie automatically is playing his best game of his career. And we got that with Halak. So it was a frustrating game, but it was a good chance to get to see Cogliano and that Vancouver Canucks team that it feels like 3 years ago, but in November we beat them 7-1.
I know, you told me that. I completely forgot about that. That's how long it's been since we played them. So, you know, there was good and bad. And I don't know really which I want to start with, but I guess maybe rolled into one, good and bad, was the power play, where it's been good as of late. And even though, again, against the Edmonton Oilers, they were, you know, they only had a cup. I think it was 2 for 5, but it looked incredible.
Yeah.
And this time it looked more bad than good. And Vancouver is the worst penalty killing team in the league. You just can't have that. I mean, at this stage in the game, I don't want to just, you know, railroad Vancouver, but I'm gonna a little bit. At this stage in the game, you're almost done with March. You know, things are what they are. Stats are what they are. And you need to exploit things like that. When you're a team that has, even without Gabe Landeskog, and I don't want to hear if Gabe Landeskog was there. Yeah, it would have been better. That's obvious. But are you telling me that the Colorado Avalanche without Gabe Landeskog and even slotting in Val Nichushkin can't do a better job against the Vancouver Canucks penalty kill, which is the worst in the league? Make that argument when you're up against a good team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Make that argument that when you're even up against Edmonton, or who was it the other day that isn't Calgary? Calgary is, I think,
Mm-hmm.
1-2 with both of their power play and penalty kill. Make the argument then. I don't want to hear the argument against the worst penalty kill team in the league.
Especially with how Mikko Rantanen played in the last game. And he's still there, and he's still part of that team. Like Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Valentin Shushkin, Nazem Kadri, how he's performed all year. You should be handling that Vancouver penalty kill easily.
They for whatever reason, they suddenly just decided to start overpassing on the power play. They had really, really good looks and were just trying to get the extra pass, maybe make it look a little bit pretty. I don't know why, but and sometimes they were even struggling to gain the zone.
Yeah.
And Vancouver would just have an easy clear. And once again, we're just getting we're not getting face-offs won in the zone to start a power play. And I'll say it again. I know people sometimes will say like, well, those are the only face-offs that are important. You know, mid-ice face-offs are not the most important. Zone face-offs are. And when you lose that first zone, it just changes the dynamic. I know you're losing 5 to 10 seconds, but that's a big deal when you're in the offensive zone, and the Avs just can't seem to win an offensive zone face-off. And even against Vancouver, 57% Vancouver won face-offs. And how many of those were in the offensive zone for the Avalanche? 1 for 5 on the power play. I'm stomping my feet right now.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that whatsoever. It's that and when you've been doing so well on the power play, and then you go up against this team and 1 for 5, come on, guys. You got to do better than that.
And you mentioned the overpassing when it comes to that power play, and you wonder if it's just like they're a little too overconfident in their ability, where you would like to see that confidence like resound on the score sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have another 7-1 game. That's where you can have your swagger and confidence. Don't feel like you're going to score. We're going to pass for that beautiful shot that you're going to replay 100 times. That overpassing for that perfect goal, I would rather see you take those shots and like pepper Halak and put 4 or 5 in there. Yeah. That's what I'd much rather have. I would much rather have that than a beautifully set up shot. And then I saw so many passing out of a really good chance, even like in a scrum when Halak's out of position off a rebound, instead of taking that right there shot, passing one more time because it's going to be right there, and then you can't. Everybody overshooting and Berkey going back to his.
I was just gonna bring that up, man. I want to get a jersey that is 95 and the name is wide of the net on the back. It's like, and you had a couple shots where nobody was around you, and you still sailed it wide.
Yep.
It was just like they just weren't on their game for the things that you've just come to expect from the Avalanche. That they're just hitting all their marks, and you know, they couldn't get. You have to give some credit to Vancouver, and Vancouver's a big team. So you know, even if you did throw some pucks on net and there was rebounds to be had, it's not easy. You're not just going to say like, oh, they would collect them and they would have gotten a goal. They're Avalanche are the bigger team. Vancouver's got some big boys. It would have been tough, but that doesn't mean you don't try it.
Yeah.
You at least have to throw some pucks on net, and when you have the opportunity, and even Nathan McKinnon was doing it last night.
Yep.
He was being very selfish or unselfish, I guess you could say, in making an extra pass when it didn't need to happen. He's got all of the ability in the world. Obviously, throw something on net. I don't know. As the power play just seemed like it took a nosedive from what it's been over the past week or so.
Jacob Leake quoting the great prophet Steve Dangle. And honestly, and you also have to put in consideration that 40% of your lineup is brand spanking new. Like you got Cogliano, you got your Manson, and you got your Sturm. Like it's still you're feeling it out. like, you don't have a captain there who can tell everyone, hey, this is where you play, this is what we do. Like, you're going through your alternate captains, you're going through your EJs, your Cale Makar's an alternate captain, Nathan McKinnon. Like, you're going through, that is your leadership on the ice.
Yeah.
So it's still a weird dynamic there. So the overpassing is something you really don't want these new guys to get accustomed to, and then this being our new style of play. This is a bad habit you're teaching the new guys.
Well, we'll get to the new guys in a few minutes, but we're also going to get to our sound check, obviously, in our third segment. But something that is just glaring when you look at the stats in this game, absolutely glaring. And I'll get to that right after we hear from betonline.net. It's that time of year again for college basketball's big tournament. I got my Final Four still in the game with Purdue winning the entire thing. Kyle, not so much.
Baseball's coming, right?
It is, and you can bet on baseball at betonline.net. From the latest odds, contests, and player props, betonline.net is the number one source for all of your sports betting needs and info. Remains the best spot for your sports scores, podcasts, and news for this season. And it's not just basketball or baseball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. That's betonline.net, where the game starts. So against the Oilers, the time on ice was very good. I was very pleased. I think it was the most spread out that we've seen time on ice for the Avalanche. And I say that knowing full well that Cale Makar had 30 minutes on ice. But all of your depth players, really, they all had at least 10 minutes of ice time. I think the only one that didn't was, shockingly, Mr. McDermott. But you look at time on ice for this game, and even with, all your new guys that are there, you had 1, 2, 3, 4 guys under 10 minutes. And those are Cogliano, Abe Kubel, Darren Helm, and then McDermott. But McDermott had the most out of those 4, shockingly. I mean, he can't make heads or tails of it. There was way too much pressure. I don't even want to use the term pressure. Maybe that's it. I mean, because these guys can handle the pressure. I don't know. I can't think of a better word. But, you had Nichushkin over 24 minutes, McKinnon over 25 minutes, Rantanen over 23. You had Taves with almost 28, 4 seconds shy of 28, and Makar 2 seconds shy of 28. You're putting so much pressure on and stress on those top lines. And this is the reason why we acquired guys like Sturm and Cogliano and eventually Lankinen. You know what I mean? Like, we got away from what we did against the Oilers in 24 or 48 hours. And the Oilers are a better team. And we kind of changed our system to go up against Vancouver. Vancouver is still in the thick of things. So, like you said earlier, you're going to get a really good game for them because they got a lot to play for. And we didn't spread out the minutes in this game. And I think that hurt the Avs at the end. You saw Nathan McKinnon right when the goaltender was pulled, he had already been out there for, I don't know what it was. I guarantee it was over a minute. He was gassed. You can't have that. You gotta, and you do this over the course of the game. So at the end, they're a little bit more rested, and they can go for the final 2.5 minutes. I didn't think it was well spread out last night.
And with us being well gassed, like, that's what burned us in that overtime against Calgary. You burn that top line out, and you make mistakes. And honestly, everyone look at your calendar. We're looking at like the last couple days of the month of March. Look at the standings. We're up 5 points on Florida and Carolina. We're up 1,000,000 points on second place in the West. The minutes should not be relying so heavily on the top. It should honestly be going down. Like, the NBA does load management. I'm not calling for load management in the NHL.
No, please no. Please no.
But,
I don't want that.
But honestly, at this point, like, we know we're in everything you've done up to this point has got you in a really good position where you can, honestly, what your top lines are going to look like. try out these lines 3 and 4 and line 2. Really play with them, because when Gabe comes back and Sammy G comes back and possibly Bowen Byram,
Yeah.
they're going right back into the roster. Somebody's not going to be there. Who are you going to pull out? That's what you need to be figuring out in this. And like, reduce the minutes of the top line. They got you to this point. You don't need to keep pushing. Like a win tonight would not change much when it comes to the trajectory of the Avalanche.
Yeah, it's a good point. You're sitting pretty as far as the standings go. And how we kept saying, what would they do with someone like Sammy G? Would they put him on LTIR just to be on the safe side and let him, ride out the season? And they didn't do that. They didn't do that with Landeskog. And I think they didn't do that for the same reason for both guys. They want to get them back into the regular season to give them some games to get back into game shape before the playoffs come. And what did you do? Like, you're going to do that, especially with Sammy G, because he has a new mate with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in Manson. So you want him to come back as soon as possible and get some games under the belt together. I get that. Why wouldn't you want to do that with the guys that you just acquired right now?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you want those guys out there for longer? What did Sturm have last night? Because I thought he played it. He had 11 minutes, 20 seconds. I like that guy. He plays a heavy game, and he's got some speed to him, but he's a big guy. He doesn't get pushed around, and he can make some plays.
Yeah.
So I like that. Like, you gave him a good amount of time on the ice. Do that with the other guys you got. I know maybe Cogliano, because he's brand spanking new. I think he got there yesterday.
Yeah.
Maybe, you need a game for him to get his feet wet and stuff like that. But we were talking about how Manson was great to soak up some defensive minutes. He had 13 minutes and 49 seconds. He should have more than that.
Yeah.
And I know he had a really bad turnover in the defensive zone, which led to a goal. I know that, but you don't just, cut the guy's minutes because of it. You let him get out there and right the wrong.
And honestly, with the way we're writing this top line right now, like you mentioned, like we didn't LTIR Landeskog, I think he probably is upset because the man just literally had surgery.
Yeah.
The last thing you want him to do is, well, good job on that surgery. How's those stitches looking? That's great. Well, 30 minutes tonight. That sound good to you? Like,
yeah,
you gotta pace it just a little bit now. Like Sammy G, like they're coming back from being hurt. They're not on vacation. They're not seeing the world. Like, you can't go from weeks off to, all right, 27 minutes tonight sound good for you, Sammy G? Like, you've got to try these fresh faces out. Like, see exactly who they should be paired with when they do come back.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be smart with this.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got a sound check to get to. We'll get to that in a second, because we're also going to talk about, we haven't talked about Darcy Kuemper yet, and he only gave up 2 goals. That's the plus. Some other questionable moves that didn't really seem to, they didn't affect him in terms of giving up a goal, but it's an odd game for him. I thought, like,
yes,
good that you only gave up 2, but sometimes you're coming out of the net way too far, and maybe that burned him on the second goal. But first, we're going to get to a sound check. Games that, or songs that we feel best represent the action against Vancouver. What do you got? 3-1 loss. Go for it.
Make sure you're following this playlist on Spotify.
Definitely.
It is free, and so is this show. The stream is free, so check us out as well. But when you listen to this song and it comes up, it's from an artist called Dandyland. I want you to close your eyes and listen to the song, and then when the lyrics come up, I want you to read these lyrics out loud. The song is called Poopy Stupid Butt. And that's what this game was. It was Poopy Stupid Butt.
Where did you find this song?
This, honestly, I heard it a couple years ago, and it's one of those earworm songs that you just sing in random moments.
Yeah.
It's just a weird song. Does not make a lot of sense. But
is it like a kid song, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
But Poopy Stupid Butt is repeated like a lot towards the end of the song. Yeah. And it's talking
I mean, it's said throughout the entirety of the song, but I mean, it's talking about Legos and stuff.
And like
I don't know.
pizza, yeah, like Legos and pizza. It's like one of those songs that you put on like kids Spotify and it just comes
Yeah.
up. And I remember hearing it and I'm like,
Yeah.
it kind of gets stuck in your head. And like, poopy stupid butt was all I kept saying with this
Yeah.
game.
Right.
So yeah, when it
It's
comes up, you're going to know exactly which game this was talking about.
yeah, and like that's exactly what we're going for in this. Is like how do you summarize that game? Poopy stupid butt.
Yeah, you're going to hear it. You're like, Vancouver.
So basically, what you're saying is like when I go listen to this, like it's going to be stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Like the great Lewis Black comedian said that's how doctors don't know how people get brain aneurysms, but he does. People hear a stupid song and get stuck in their ear.
Yep.
So this is brain aneurysm city right here. For
Sorry.
me, I'm going with one of my favorite bands, and that's Radiohead. And they have a song called Let Down on maybe one of the best albums ever made, which is OK Computer. Yeah, I do. I just feel let down by the Avs in this game. You played such a good game against Edmonton. That's what you wanted to see for a full 60 minutes. And again, I'm not saying that you played terribly, but everything was lined up for you to win this game. You got your new team, you got fresh faces, you got you're on home ice. You got a backup goalie going who's not having the best of seasons. One goal, a little bit let down, and a really bad performance by the special teams in the power play.
Yeah, it was an absolute letdown, especially when you go off a game of Nathan McKinnon versus McDavid and the two comparisons there. A lot of people forget Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes were talked about like right there, like best young defenders in the league. And now look at like the huge separation here.
Massive.
So there's another letdown, Quinn Hughes. Yeah. Like,
and even
yeah, the Quinn Hughes separation, like Cale Makar had every opportunity, and he was playing angry at some points of this game where he kind of, and Quinn Hughes was like in the box because of his frustrations, and Cale Makar was playing frustrated and not scoring. So yeah, it was aggravating.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, I think my audio cut out, but yeah, the McKinnon penalty. You just can't do that. You can't do like I get your frustration. That's where he lets the frustration boil over, and you can't do that. And I know you didn't like there was no call on Hughes, but you can't retaliate. You can't do that stuff. It didn't hurt them in terms of giving up a goal, but
the refs are on our side.
Really? I thought it was embellishment, if you ask me. So
yeah,
I put it up on.
Where's the
Twitter.
flop?
Darcy Kuemper, like we said, gave up only 2 goals, but just seemed like he was out of position a lot for some reason. And some people say it was a good play when I don't remember who it was. It was kind of later in the game, and he was far out of the crease, and he almost checked the player, whoever it was. Not the best move. That's something like Marc-Andre Fleury does. Fleury's good at that, but Fleury's good at poke checking a puck away from a guy. Kuemper flat out just checked the dude, and not what you really want to see. And then the other one prior, when he did give up a goal, again, he was out of the crease pretty far. Puck got behind him, and he couldn't reach back. It's really easy for a defender to get behind you when you're that far out of the crease, and all that needs to happen is exactly what happened. A puck just flips, it goes backwards. You can't turn around and clear that thing. There's a guy there to put it home. That's what happened.
And he, earlier in that first period, he collected the puck in his glove, acted like he was going to freeze it for a very good opportunity for us to get a fresh change. But no, he decides, I'm passing it out of my glove while it's still on the ice, slide it across. That was a problem. And also gave the puck away for a wraparound attempt that Darcy Kuemper had to dive across and make a save. And it was at that moment that I knew we are in for a ride, and boy, that did not disappoint.
I mean, and he first 2 periods, he shut him out. So it was just an odd game. Like in one aspect, you look at it and you're like, it wasn't his best game in terms of like positioning. It seemed like he was tracking the puck okay, but yeah, just some against a better team. That's danger zone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that will get you in a lot of trouble. So on one hand, you're like, okay, it's not the best. You don't want to see him making moves like that. On the other hand, he's hanging tough. Like he's fighting it. He's fighting it, but it's like when golfers fighting the course. He's fighting, just staying in the game, and he did. He only gave up 2 goals, so you have to give him credit for that. But performance wise, it was an up and down game for him. Nazem Kadri was asked, "Why do you keep getting kicked out of faceoffs?" And his response was, "I'm glad you guys noticed that too." So I feel like I should start like a hashtag on Twitter. Every time Nazem Kadri gets kicked out of a faceoff, I'm going to hashtag Kadri kicked, and then with the number. So it's the first time, and then the second time, and then the third time. Like, and I'm wondering if I should do it per game or just keep it going. Maybe next season I'll start on game 1 and keep a running tally for the entire season. I'm sure you could look this up. I'm assuming there's some website that monitors how many times guys get kicked out of the faceoff zone. But I think for a game, if you follow me on Twitter, I usually tweet from the show's Twitter page, LOPN_Avalanche. Every time he gets kicked out, it's going to be hashtag Kadri kicked with a number, because and we talked about this last week. Somebody wrote in a question, why does he get kicked? And the answer is very broad, because there's a number of reasons why you can. You watch a little bit closer when he is in the faceoff zone to try to pick out what they're going to kick him out for. I don't know what it is. There's nothing egregious that I'm seeing that he's doing.
I'll be, because Chris, he's on the Locked On account. I'm on my account over there. I'll give him a "we notice," and I'll be like, I know, I'm right there with you, buddy. Hashtag we notice, buddy.
We do notice.
We notice. I'm glad that's starting to get addressed in media now.
It doesn't make any sense. The amount he gets kicked out of, I can't wrap my head around it. There is no. If somebody knows of a website, I follow a lot of like deep stat websites. If someone knows of a site where they track that, let me know, because I would go to betonline.net and put the fact that, a lot of money down on the fact that he is number 1 in the league by far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, like the skates inside the Red Owls, that's one of the factors. But I don't think he's not doing that.
Yeah.
I think he's inside those. And I know his skates need to be pointed forward. I mean, if it's that minute, what are we doing here? Like, is that really what we're going to do with him? Because I can guarantee you he's the only one that's not doing it. And like you said before, like, it could be, if it were players like, jostling and stuff like that, I think they would call that out. That you would see a ref kind of make a gesture towards those players. But they don't even do it. They just kick them right out.
Yeah. And then
I feel like he is in the stirrups. I don't know. It's maybe I got to watch that more, but
I want some side to give us something to look at, and because honestly, there's a lot that the puck is dropped and he's kicked out. There's a lot that he just skates up there and then he's kicked out. Like,
right.
And then you also want to know exactly whose side is this really on? Is this Nas just like being like skating up there, knowing he's doing this and just arrogantly doing it, and the ref is like, "You're out"? Or is this something the refs kind of have like this thing, like, keep an eye out for him? Like, where is this coming from? We need something to go on. And now with this being talked about in the media, maybe it can start to get a little bit of legs and then
traction. Yeah, I just feel the way he plays. He's got that, like, we know how he plays. He's got the little mean side to him, and he's trying to gain an advantage wherever he can. I just feel like it's something that he's not putting his stick on the ice. I think it's something like that where he is just having it hover a millimeter above the ice and the refs are catching it. and they're throwing him out on something like as minute as that. Which is, you do get kicked out for that, but I can't imagine it's nothing that I'm seeing that is so, because he's not leaning in terribly and making contact with the other guy. I
No.
don't know. It's one of life's mysteries. Jared Bednar said he liked the team's work ethic. He didn't like the turnovers. And he said the last bit of execution in scoring areas that's coming from Peter Ball. So, yeah, I mean, again, in one of those games, there's good and bad, and when you have those games, it's 0-0 in the first two and you go into the third, anything can happen. And even when you're the Avalanche and you're on home ice and they have everything really going for you, it just like that, bang, bang, two goals for Vancouver in a minute. And now you're fighting from behind. Yeah, you got the rest of the period to fight back, and you are capable of doing that. That's the good thing about the Avs. Got one back with the power play and had opportunities and just couldn't pull through. What are you going to
do? You want to see better. You want to, like, this is an opponent you should do better against, and you did not execute.
Yes, he says, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Mosh Main. There you go, Mosh Main. That is a nice name. I'm thinking Mosh Pit for you, but I like that. Since Landeskog got hurt, something is obviously off, but hopefully these new guys get used to the new team. They've been playing fine. I think that, they are missing a little bit. They're missing a little bit of Landeskog is what they're missing. You're going to miss that. None of the guys that you acquired are going to replace him. None of the guys that you have on the team right now can replace what he does.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay, because you have guys like, Nichushkin who can fill in, do things differently than Landeskog does. But yeah, you don't get that grit that Landeskog has, especially on the power play and just in general.
Yeah.
So, it is a little bit of a change without him there, and it is a little bit of change without Sammy Girard there. But let me know. There's more than enough skill on this team to overcome those two guys not being there. And I think, you have to get the new guys acclimated, and, with Tyson Jost not being there, even he didn't do a lot in terms of scoring. Like, he knew the system and he worked his butt off. You could never fault him for that. So maybe it will take a couple games to get the new guys like acclimated and get on the same page, but I still thought they played okay. You had the one bad turnover by Manson, obviously, but I really liked the way Sturm played. I thought he played great.
And this is a good way for the new guys to know how we lose in Colorado. Like, everybody's coming from places like Montreal and San Jose and Minnesota, where a loss is just kind of par for the course. In Colorado, that's what, our 14th, 15th of the year in regulation. Like, it's not acceptable. This is what we do, and this is how we overcome. Yeah. You feel bad for Philly. They're next.
I was just going to say, you got a day off, and then Claude Giroux gets to play against his old team. Oh, no, wait. He doesn't, because he didn't want to come here. So whatever. All right. But day off, and then, it's in Philly. And that's in Colorado. So all the games this week at home. So a team that you absolutely should beat. Let's not split hairs here. So we'll see how that goes. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for today. Take the loss and move on. So we'll be back tomorrow. Anything that goes on in the league, obviously we will be discussing it. But for now, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. And until tomorrow, he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and on the live chat. We'll see you guys tomorrow.